Welcome to another Bible in a Year Q&A. This is for November 1st through the 15th. I have a couple very good questions to answer regarding the readings for November 1st through the 15th. The first one is from 2 Timothy chapter 3, verse 5. Actually the verse, leading up to the verse, St. Paul is beginning in verse 2. He says, for men will be lovers of self, and then he goes through all these different vices. And then picking up, he says, they'll hold the form of religion, but deny the power of it. Avoid such people. So there's this long litany of sins, and then he tells them to avoid such people. The question is, it says we should avoid such people, but elsewhere, the scriptures says we have an obligation to help them change. Exactly, that's correct. We have an obligation to help them change. But the question here is about avoid. Well, it says to avoid them. Well, in terms of the idea of not to keep bad company, all right? So this idea of you got to keep your distance. You don't want to pick up their bad habits. And so you want to evangelize them, but you don't want to pick up their bad habits. And you spend a lot of time around someone with bad habits, you're more than likely going to pick them up. But there's this idea of evangelizing them. It is true. So you avoid them in the sense of you recognize I don't want to pick up their bad habits. I can maybe engage with them to some extent, but the depth of friendship isn't going to be able to go that deep. Otherwise, you're going to pick up their habits. We pick up our habits and stuff, especially from our friends. And going to in Matthew chapter 18, where Jesus speaks to the apostles, binding and loosening the church. If someone sins against you, go to your brother, and then he kind of blows you off. Okay, bring others against them. Then bring the church. And if the church, finds them, they kick them out, essentially. They excommunicate them, sever them. Why? And then it says you're to treat him like a sinner, a public sinner, essentially. Oh, well, how are we supposed to treat sinners? Jesus says we're supposed to evangelize them. All right. So to reach out to them, but also you don't want to pick up their habits, their way of life. So that's the nuance here, that kind of in the greater context. So we're to avoid such people in the sense of we recognize I got to keep my distance. I don't want to pick up their habits, but we are to reach out to them in love, to bring them to the Lord, to evangelize them by our example, by our words. The other question is from Ezekiel chapter 37, verses 5 to 17, famous of the dry bones, and then that kind of coming back, joints, ligaments and joints and stuff from skin comes back on them. The question is this also in reference to our resurrection? Yes. Now many commentators kind of more that would just want to say, well, this is just merely God saying to Ezekiel that he's going to bring his people back to the land. They're in exile. He's going to bring them back. He kind of bring them back to life. In a certain sense, yeah. But there's more to it. And Christian tradition has seen this as also, this is the resurrection. I mean, it's not just he could use an imagery of, okay, there's people enslaved, now they're free, but they're dead. He's going to bring back to life, and he breathes their spirit. All right, so it's God's spirit that'll raise our bodies, his divine power. So yes, it's also a reference, a fuller sense. There's in Scripture, there's kind of different levels, of it, and there kind of like a lot of Scripture. There's a lot of levels, different of these passages. That's why the beauty of it. There's kind of Scripture passages. So and they aren't in contradiction. So even though in one sense, yes, this does refer in one sense of bringing the Israelites back to their land after exile, in a fuller sense, it comes is the resurrection at the end of time, where God's going to raise the bodies of all our bodies and unite them again with our souls. This follow-up question to the regarding, is this a reference to the resurrection? What And what of those whose ashes have been scattered? They're goners. Too bad. They're not going to. No, no. God, He can do the impossible. All right. So yes, He can gather them up, bring them back, and we will get the same body back in terms of the same. How exactly God's going to do that? He's going to do that. How do we know that? Well, we're going to receive our bodies. Our bodies are part of us, and Jesus' resurrection bears witness to that. He didn't receive a different body. It's the same body. Still has the holes of the nail marks, all right, in His pierced side, all right. It's the same body, all right. And also Jesus, by being resurrected with the same body in a glorified state, helps us kind of more deeply understand that our bodies are part of us. We aren't just souls, and our bodies are kind of like a car we're driving around in life, and then after life we're done. Okay, now we're out. We get our cars broken down. No, our bodies are part of us. It's this deep aspect of who we are. So before the resurrection of the dead, all the souls like all the saints in heaven, with the exception of Mary, who is at their assumption taken body and soul into heaven at the end of her earthly life. All the other saints, they're longing for union with their body. There's a certain incompleteness. Although they have the fullness, they enjoy heaven, there's still something lacking. Their full humanity, because we're body and soul. So at the resurrection, they'll receive their bodies, and then fully body and soul, a full human person. The technical term that's used is the saints, their souls, disembodied souls. All right, this idea of they're disembodied in the sense of like we're meant to be embodied. Our souls and bodies are meant to be united. Death separates them. Resurrection brings them back together. Now you may wonder, okay, well, why does the church not allow scattering of ashes? Okay, well, first of all, First, the church didn't allow cremation for the longest time, and it's not because, the church didn't, the body had to be intact. Early Christians, like in Rome, when they buried in the catacombs, the graves and stuff, they would put them in there. They put the bodies in. They put lime on the bodies so they decompose quicker. Why? Because they needed to use that slot, in a couple of years for someone else. All right, so it's even early Christians. They knew, like, okay, God's going to raise the dead. It's not like we need to preserve the bones perfectly, but so that sense, the church didn't allow cremation for the longest time because the connection beginning in the 1700s in Europe, the Enlightenment movement that denied that the resurrection of the dead. And so they would burn their bodies, have their bodies burned, cremated, say, God can't raise the dead. So it was a way of kind of, spitting at God, insulting the truth, the Christian truth of the resurrection. So the church didn't allow that for the longest time until maybe, was it 40 years ago or so, they opened it, they allowed it. But part of when the church allows it, still require, though, that the remains, the ashes, be buried or placed in a columbarium, a permanent kind of burial place, not on your shelf or whatever. I'm going to go take grandma with me when I go shopping or wherever I move them. No. This idea of this person is meant. There's this respect for the remains of the person, and so it's part of the problem. And that is, what if a person who has those remains in their house, they die? Okay, well, that person doesn't get buried, and maybe people just think, oh, there's just kind of this container here. We'll just throw this kind of respect for the human person, their remains. And so our bodies are part of us. Even when we die, okay, our soul isn't enlivening it and stuff, but there's still this aspect that God's going to raise that body in some way. He's going to do that. And so this importance of the dignity of our bodies and the remains, the ashes, kind of, that also points to the dignity of our bodies. So we show respect, not because God can't work, but it's for our benefit, so that our bodies are respected, as well as it gives an opportunity for people to have a place to go to, to remember that person. You scatter the ashes, then it's like, okay, whereas you have there's a grave or a column, there's a place I can go And it still points to the reality, this person, that person, their soul still exists, it lives on with their body. They haven't been reunited with their body yet. All right, so it also bears witness to we're in that in between before the resurrection, and there's a very concrete way of people when they go to going. I'm gonna go to a grave, a cemetery, and visit the graves of my ancestors, those who have died before me. There's this very concrete way of active love toward that person, because the bonds of love, we can still love those beyond the grave. This whole aspect of praying for them. And by going to a cemetery, making that visit, that's an act of charity. In a certain sense, that do that. There's a certain there's an act of love there toward that deceased member of your family or loved one. And so I think this very concrete way of showing our love, even for the dead, by having them buried, respecting their remains, and then it gives us an opportunity to again and again concretely make acts of love toward them. Just as if when they're alive, you go visit them. All right, that's an act of love, especially if they got to get on your nerves. All right, so hopefully that's probably more than the person wanted to do this explanation, but I did want to give a little more than just God. If God can still do it, but what's the reason for the church's practice and stuff of having the burial? Because of the dignity of our human person, body and soul. So thank you for those who sent the wonderful questions. I just look forward to the more questions after whenever the next, I think December 1st, start sending the second half of November. God bless.